Hello. Hello. Are you all right? Is anybody joining me? I know it's a kind of a last minute thing. Me and Rachel have spoke about it over the last few days, and I thought it was today, but I think it was supposed to be October. But I'm here now anyway. Um, and I just wanted to come on, and I've been on this group before a while back. I came on, I think it was on a Tuesday night. So some of you might know me already. Um, and those of you who don't, I'm Claire. I help professional, ambitious women to stop relying on alcohol to fuel their busy lives. I quit drinking, and I've been so inspired by my new sober life that I really wanted to reach out and help other people with the same problem. Um, I was inspired by a friend. A friend came back into my life, and at the time, I was well into my binge drinking. I was like most busy moms. I worked for myself, and I would reward myself for my hard work with wine at the end of a busy day. Um, like many of us, I didn't think that I had a drink problem. Um, I would wake up on a Monday morning and I would be saying, never again. I did all of that and I would sometimes suffer, but I didn't class myself as an alcoholic. I didn't class myself as someone who, had an issue with alcohol. I drank when I could, um, and not often did I choose not to drink unless it wasn't possible. So say if I was ever going anywhere and for whatever reason I was taking the car, I wasn't doing it out of choice. Drinking was a big part of my life. Um, and I think it's so interesting. The more people that I meet, it's not like there's a certain level of drink that people like to tell me how much they're drinking as if I'm going to say, oh, well, that's okay. Oh, you're okay. That this message isn't for you. But it's just about being self-aware and thinking, what what impact is this having on the rest of my life? Now, everyone who's on this page is already educated about their mental health. And what I want to talk to you today about is how that links with alcohol. And I think a lot of the time people believe that it's something that's their fault and that this problem belongs to them. If you think about it, when we're young and we try alcohol for the first time, we're encouraged by the people around for it to say, oh, you'll get a taste for it. And as you're being sick as a teenager, underage drinking, they'll say, your tolerance will get better. Don't worry. It's almost like we have to fight through that in order to get to the part where we enjoy alcohol. And I think it's turned into a little bit of a social, well, I want to say social issue for many people. And the problem that we have is people stay stuck because they don't want to admit that they've got this issue. There's a lot of shame around alcohol. There's a lot of stigma attached to the word alcoholic. And I think that keeps a lot of people stuck where they are. Now, if alcohol is becoming a problem in your life, or if it's been a problem in your life for a while, it's about saying, it depends on how much you're drinking. I would always encourage people to speak to their doctor, especially if they're drinking, a lot of alcohol and they have been for a long period of time. I'm not about saying to people, stop drinking now. What I offer is not an alcohol-free challenge. It's a program. It's 5-stage program. The first stage is looking at you and looking at what you want for your life. So it's not about saying how much are you drinking. We don't talk about units. We don't talk about, your liver function. it's not about that. It's about saying, what is it that you want for your life? And is drinking getting you closer to that? Or is it sending you in the opposite direction of what your goals and your hopes and your dreams are? And often when we're drinking, we don't know what they are. We have no idea what our hopes and our dreams are because we spend so much time stuck in stuck on repeat in a cycle of drink and then regret. Hi Louise, Louise is watching. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, oh, that's good. I've had a few problems, technical problems over the last few weeks, and so I'm always anxious that I'm banging on and people can't hear me. So I just wanted to check. And I know it's because it's last minute. People can watch on replay. If you'd be kind enough to just put on the bottom if you have watched it on replay, so I know who's actually tuned in, if you like. But I want today to talk a little bit, to take up some of your time to talk about women and alcohol. I'm going to be looking at my screen. So I've got my screen down here. I'm just going to open this up so I can go through this with you. Because a lot of the time people stay stuck. They believe that it's something that it's their problem. And I think that's typical of, it's all fun and games, isn't it? But then when something goes wrong, and often people drink because it's the norm or because they feel stress and they've been led to believe that this alcohol is going to remove the stress from their lives temporarily. And yes, it might, but the stress is still there when you go after, you know what I mean? When the drink wears off, the stress is still there. And on top of that, you then also have a hangover. Um, and if you're like me, I couldn't function. And it wasn't like I was, being sick and physically hungover. It was more through the week. My mental health was just so low. And I just felt so anxious and not good enough, the self-loathing and feeling like I just wasn't achieving what I wanted to achieve from my life. And the only person who was being hard on me was me. Um, and I think that's the danger because we tend to surround ourselves with other people. Naturally, we tend to be around other people who drink just as much as us. So when you identify that you think you've got a problem, you're stuck because anybody who you talk to about it is probably on a similar page to you. But because you're only spending time together on Friday night, they're not there with you on a Monday morning or a Tuesday or even into a Wednesday when I would still feel the after effects of just that dread, and I would call it the heebie jeebies, just that awful anxiety, like I want to go like this, like a cloak that was around me, just making me feel awful. And it was interesting because when this friend came back in my life, she had lost everything due to alcohol. I'd lost touch with her for a few years, and when she came back, she was looking for a property, and I've got properties that I rent out. And I went to meet her, and I did get a bit of a fright when I seen her, and I thought, like most friends, I thought she just needed a good night out. I thought she was lonely. Our relationship had broken down. Um, and the more time I spent with her, I used to go around to her flat and I used to try and encourage her to come out on nights out. And the more time I spent with her, I realized that this was a big issue for her. And it wasn't going to be, a night out with the girls wasn't going to fix it. Um, and she opened up to me and explained. And it did scare me because I knew we were very similar type of people. And I just always thought if it could happen to her, it could happen to me. And I think that's what made me start looking at my drinking. So from being this kind of, I want to say ignorant because I didn't understand, ignorant and binge drinking and just, I suppose we were wasting my life. It was like she woke me up like that. And there was a light bulb moment where I thought, where is the line between my fun and her problem? And I couldn't figure that out. I couldn't figure it out. And I suppose that's what stopped me just ignorantly thinking, oh, it's just a bottle of wine, it's just a bottle of wine, and putting it all off until later. I'll sort that out later. I'm not going to be drinking like this forever, but I knew I wasn't going to be, I wouldn't have let it get so bad, but I didn't realize how much in control the alcohol was rather than me. I thought I was in control of it. And it wasn't until I decided to cut down, which was usually everyone's first stage is, right, I'm going to cut down. So then you bring in all these different rules for yourself, right? So then you've got a rule about not drinking through the week. So I would try that. And I could do a Monday, maybe even a Tuesday. But then because I'd done so well, I'd crack open a bottle on a Wednesday. Yeah? Which turned into 2 bottles on a Thursday. And then I'm into the weekend. And then I'm back to Monday again, feeling absolutely like death. And it was just every week it went around like that, to the point sometimes where I would manage to get as far as the Thursday and then think, oh my God, it's Friday tomorrow and I'm doing so well, but I have to drink because it's Friday and I'm meeting my friends, or I've got someone coming over for, I don't know, a night in and watch a movie, so I have to drink. And it slowly started to become, I suppose that was me moderating, but I was mindfully drinking. I was thinking about it all of a sudden a lot. And I think that's probably when the self-loathing came in even more. I started to attack myself more because I constantly failed at all these rules that I gave myself. Um, and it was almost as if, from a mental health perspective, that felt like it was worse because I was constantly checking myself, and the way I spoke to myself wasn't very nice. I would overcompensate with the kids and make promises that I didn't deliver, because I felt like I was letting them down, and it was really a hard time for me when I went through that. And it wasn't until another fad diet had failed that I decided, I was looking online for inspiration, and I came across this fitness instructor, and she had quit drinking for a year. And she was on this video, I think it was on YouTube or something, and she was explaining about how it had changed her life. And honestly, I was so taken aback. I had never ever considered stopping altogether. That just wasn't on the table. It didn't seem like it was an option for me. And I think the people who I speak to or who I come across now, they all love my message and they're all really, really keen to find out more. But they don't ever like that side of the story. They're all keen to cut down. But it's really hard to gain people's commitment for them to quit for a length of time, a decent length of time, so they can really look and say, is my life better with alcohol or without? And I'm not just talking about like 2 or 3 days. It's not long enough. It's really not. I think you don't feel the impact and the benefits until well after like your month, 6 weeks. That's what you're looking at. And I think it's from the research I've done, I've spoken to so many different specialists. And one of the specialists I spoke to is the author of a book. She's the author of a book called The Habits of a Happy Brain. And she helped me so much at the beginning of my journey because I went on a Zoom call with her. I was really lucky. She's from New York, and I had a Zoom call with her. I remember one Sunday night I was sat so nervous. It was one of the first Zoom calls I'd ever done. And when I spoke to her, oh, the information she gave me was just gold. I've got the recording of the actual audio, and what she explained was that if you think about it, right, imagine you're going to the beach and you park your car or you walk from your house and you go down the same path to the beach every day. So you can see in the grassy bank there's a footpath. Everybody uses the same path, and there's a path to the beach, right? Now, that's the path we've taken for the last 20 years. when we've been drinking. Okay. So if you think about it, when you're stressed, when it's Friday, when you see your friends, you just go to that path because it's the only path that you know. And that's the path where you're drinking. And what I'm trying to do, or what she explained to me, was what I needed to do was to create a new path. And it's hard at first. There might be brambles in the way. You might need to move some debris and some litter and maybe a few, I don't know, logs or to get to the beach on a new path. But it's possible. And it's about trying to surround yourself with other people. I mean, when I was going through this, I didn't know anybody who didn't drink. I didn't know who, the only person I knew who didn't drink was my grandma, and she died 10 years earlier. And so I didn't know what sober would look like for me. I was concentrating on not drinking. Now, if you're familiar with the law of attraction and you're familiar with manifestations and, you know, the language I was using, I mustn't drink, don't drink, oh, look at you, you've drank again, and was wrong. I should have been embracing what benefits would come from being sober and running as fast as I could towards them. And I think that's what I encourage my clients to do. And everyone's motivation for doing this is completely different. So what's important to you might not be the benefit that's important to me. But trust me, there's lots of benefits to being sober. Um, and I think that's why I support women who have kind of the ambition to grow a business or the ambition to make something of themselves, because they've already got that spark inside of them. They've already got that motivation for something else. And it's okay if you haven't got that yet. That's okay as well, because the first part of my process is looking at what makes you tick. It's like it's almost like all the best activities from the personal development books that I've read and things I've invested in over the years that I'd never implemented when I was drinking. I'd never got around implementing them things because I was so caught up in the whole cycle of drink and regret and drink and regret. And I think the idea with my program is that the first stage is you would come into my group and you would start observing, and you would observe other people who are living a sober life, and you would think, all right, okay, I can imagine that could work for me. I like that bit. I'm not keen on that bit, but I could see myself doing that. And slowly your brain starts imagining this new path to the beach. And once you can see it and visualize it for you, you're halfway there. All that's left now is some belief to get rid of all the fears and to welcome your cravings. The reason I say to welcome your cravings is because the cravings you have are the clues to what you believe alcohol brings to the table for you. I want to say that again. The cravings you have are the clues to what you believe alcohol brings to the table for you. So imagine you get home from work tonight, or you're putting the kids to bed, bath time, kids' bath time, tea time. That was when I would think, oh my God, I've got to get through the next 2 hours. Stressed to death. I didn't do that at work today. I haven't done that. I feel a bit bad about myself. What can I do? I'll have a glass of wine while I make the tea. So I would have a glass of wine while I made the tea, but then I'd continue and finish that bottle of wine and probably open another one when the kids went to bed. So the next day, the things on my to-do list still didn't get done. Do you see what I mean? But if I had recognized, right, why am I stressed and why am I reaching for the wine? Because I didn't do them things. Right, put that to one side, get the things done, and then relax. Do you see what I mean? It's like parenting yourself. Or it could be that the craving comes because of a certain friend that you're going to be spending time with. And then it might be that you need supported to have a difficult conversation with that friend. and explain to them how important this is to you. Because the problem is, your friends just want you to be okay. They may be not ready for this change, and they don't understand why you want this, so they're a bit confused and a bit scared of being abandoned. Okay, so it's normal for them to protect you from this by saying things aren't quite bad enough for you to stop drinking. Like, what on earth would you do with yourself? And putting all of them doubts in your mind. You've got to kind of, it's hard, but you've got to try and step out of the circle that you're in, your direct circle that you're in at the moment. If they're drinking and encouraging you to drink, that's not your source of support at the moment. You need to step outside of that circle. And that's why my group is giving you that support. So in there's lots of other people who are curious about sober life. That's all you need to be. You need to be curious about what I'm saying. And if you think that it could be something that would help you live a better life, then, step a bit closer to me and get in my group and find out more. That's all I'm basically offering at the moment. Now we've got Sober October coming up, and okay, a lot of people might be keen to do that. That's okay, and that along with Dry January. But the difference around those 2 months, if you like, a lot of people drink all year, and then they might decide, oh, I'm going to do sober. I'm going to be sober all of January and Dry January, and then they believe that they're okay because they can pull it round for 1 month in the year. But when the 1st of February comes round, they can't wait to get back to normal. And what I'm kind of promoting is to say, make sober your new normal. It's like flipping it. So sober's your new normal, and then if there's an opportunity for you to have a drink and you so want to, then you're free to choose. And rather than drinking and then being sober for a month. And a lot of people use willpower when they do those months. So you can sit at home and you can bite your fist and you can think, oh my God, what date is it? Is it the 1st of February yet? Is it the 1st of November? I just want to have a drink, but I've said I'll do this sober October. And, and people hide away. And that's not sustainable because willpower is like a muscle and it gets tired. So if you imagine you've had a hard day, I don't know, maybe you get a flat tire on your car and you have an argument with your partner, and then the thought pops in your mind of drinking. Oh, forget sober October, give me that drink because everything's gone wrong and I deserve it. Like, you're clinging on to it. It's not like that. It's about changing your mindset and changing what you believe alcohol brings to the table for you. And it's a process and it takes time. I've got Louise on watching, and Louise has been working with me for over a year now, past July, and she's done brilliantly with her sober streak. And she has slipped up from time to time, but Louise, you've got to admit that if we hadn't been doing this and concentrating on this, how often would you have been drinking? It would have been a lot more. You've had probably 4 or 5 times where you've had a drink in the last 12, 18 months. Like, that's amazing. This is not a pass or fail. You have not failed because you've taken a drink. But what I really want people to do if they're working with me is to journal every day. And when the craving comes up, to really be able to identify how they were feeling and the moment when the craving came, and maybe like, what else could you do? What else could you do? And this lady who I did the podcast, sorry, I did the Zoom call with, she explains it takes 45 days to change a habit. So 45 consecutive days to change a habit. So if you do something for 45 days in a row, then you're well on your way to making that brand new path to the beach. So as I invite people to come onto my program, it's called the Sober Goals program, I offer them the option. You make your own sober goal. I do not want to be responsible for saying, right, stop for a year, stop for 6 months, stop for a month. I want that to belong to you. But what I am doing is I'm going with the advice from the experts that I've researched and I've spoke to, and they say 45 days to change the habit. So after the 5-stage program, that's when I would bring in a 45-day challenge to stop drinking for those 45 days. But the first stage is to go through the program and do all the mindset work and really get it in your head as to what this thing is that we're pouring all over ourselves. It's like there's just not many activities or get-togethers that don't include alcohol, so it's going to be really hard for people to cut down and moderate unless they take the ownership themselves and start believing that they have a choice. This is their choice. So that's basically a bit more about what it is that I'm doing. But today's session, I want to quickly talk about women and alcohol, because a lot of people think, right, why am I in this position? And they blame themselves, and it's not helpful. That is really not helpful for you. So what this is going to help you realize, I can open it. Hang on a minute. And I'll go somewhere else to find that. That's not going to work. There. Oh. And O on women. Right. So this is actually part of my program. So you're getting a little bit of an exclusive treat here. I've managed to get it open. Right, here we go. Alcohol and women. It's time to stop blaming yourself. Right? Part of this is belief. If you believe you can do it or not, right? But the other part is finding out why you're in that position in the first place. So I'm going to read this out to you. Now, this is obviously about my situation, but you can apply it. I'm sure you can apply it to yourself. And if it's not for you, it might be someone else that you know. So the party girl. I was the party girl, the first to arrive and the last to leave. The first one on the dance floor, the loudest and the drunkest, right? Advertising and social media memes had me convinced that the mummy juice was my friend. I was the girl you bought Prosecco and gin gifts for because I was always full of tales from my latest drunken escapade. I was drinking over 100 units a week, usually at home in my Prosecco princess pajamas, surrounded by birthday cards and fridge magnets that told me I deserved it. I was having fun, but I was secretly worried that I was slipping out of control. I was depressed and anxious and miserable, unless I was drinking. You see, the alcohol had sucked the life out of me. I had no energy to do much, so I would just drink instead. It was the easy option. But like most binge drinkers in the UK, I didn't think I had a problem. And I certainly wouldn't have asked for help. Can you relate to that? Because I knew I wasn't the only person with this problem. But I wanted to find out why. Why are women drinking more than ever before now? The alcohol misuse among women in modern life has been a public health and social issue in recent decades. The Institute of Alcohol has reports and studies that show in 2010 more significant proportion of women consume alcohol compared to was the case in the 70s and the 80s. And why? Why is that? Why are we drinking more? And so then I've got a few reasons here, right, that I'm going to go through with you. And the first one, empty nest syndrome. I want you to see if any of them apply to you. Can you relate to any of these? A lot of my clients who I'm working with are empty nesters, or whatever the term is, right? So the kids have left home. They usually wait for the grandchildren, like they're not grannies yet, but it's somewhere coming, and they're like, so the kids have left, but they're not quite grandma yet. That is the real, that's that's a lot of people who I'm attracting. I'm attracting a lot of those ladies, right? Um, and I think it's a lot of it is in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. It said that this was the main reason why people drank, because they felt sad and lonely when their kids had left home, especially the moms, especially mothers. And then the next reason is the ladette culture. Now that's my era, that's my age group. Now I'm 46. Um, so in the 90s, if you were drinking in the 90s and you were, you know, it was all about equal opportunities and drinking pints with the lads. I wasn't sipping on a baby sham. I was drinking, like proper drinking, like yeah, drinking and falling out of taxis. That's the sort of thing that I was doing. Um, and it says in 2003, an article based on binge drinking, um, it says that the binge drinking was exasperated, which means it was encouraged due to the Licensing Act. So if you can remember, they changed the Licensing Act so that the pubs could stay open longer. They gave the pubs a 24-hour license to sell alcohol. And I think this seemed to be when the supermarket prices weren't cheaper, because from my memory, a lot of, at the time then, a lot of people used to go and do the booze runs to France. So they'd get a transit van and they'd all go off to France to get cheap beer. But now you can go to Asda down the road and you can buy cheap alcohol, you know. Um, there's very few people who I talk to who say their reason for quitting is to save money, because for some reason, when you're a drinker, you will always find the money for alcohol. It's the difference would be as to where you would drink or what you would drink. You would not drink. I know that. Um, but going back to the ladette culture, because there was such a lot about that on the media and in the newspapers, it's really interesting that how the impact of that came about was the women who were out of control made the women who weren't out of control, who weren't ladettes, kind of gave them the green light to just continue, because they weren't falling out of taxis and they weren't, showing their asses in the street and doing all that. They were quietly sitting at home drinking expensive red wine, thinking that this wasn't a problem for them, but they're still drinking alcohol. Their tolerance is still increasing each year on year. I mean, if you look back at your own drinking, if you're drinking now, my guess is that you're drinking more than you were last year, because your tolerance increases, so you need more of the stuff to feel any kind of a buzz. So that's just natural, that your body gets used to it. So you need more, or you need stronger alcohol. You might have used to drink lager and now you find you're on wine, and then soon, or you might have gone over and start drinking gin. And then if you're drinking at home, your measures are getting bigger. So that there's quite a lot to to focus on and to think about here. Um, the other thing that happened was the after work culture. As women started to become more executive level, if you like, so this glass ceiling for women, and the high flyers, the high achievers, but in order to get anywhere within the business or within your the company, you'd be expected to turn up for drinks after work. And that's when the culture came with that, and the happy hours and the drinking at 5 o'clock. And it all just seems normal. It's just more normal. It's it's come in each different area of your life really, really quickly. But it wasn't like that for our mothers. It wasn't like this. in those days. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't as socially acceptable. Um, yeah, so a study in 2014 reported that a higher proportion of women in employment drink in the week more than people who aren't working. So this isn't a problem for poor people. This isn't about that. It's actually the high earners who are most at risk, because those are the ones, the high flyers, who are going for the drinks after work. And can you see what I'm going with that? And again, the link between status and consumption appears to go further than just the high flyers. It's saying that women who are educated are more likely to drink alcohol and are to report having problems due to their drinking patterns. So it's, yeah. And the other reason was drinking to escape. So I think a lot of women who were almost programmed to be able to have it all, were supposed to be able to have the perfect home, the perfect marriage, the perfect children, the perfect career. And it all gets a bit too much. It all gets a little bit too overwhelming. And I think people use alcohol as a route to assert their identity away from all of that responsibility. They want to return to a carefree version of themselves, and they choose alcohol as the way, a route to do that. Yes? Are you following us so far, Louise? I think you got it? Am I going too fast? Oh gosh, I've been on for ages. Right. And must learn to talk quicker. I'll say less. Right, and the next one, now this is the one that I find very, very, very tricky, is advertising. Alcohol advertising was specifically created towards women. In 2008, there was a report done that noted that several companies decided that they should start marketing alcohol to women, because they identified that their increase in affluence, and that women were seen as an opportunity to develop a marketing strategy. It was seen as an opportunity to develop a marketing strategy aimed to attract more women to spend their disposable income on alcoholic drinks. So it's almost like the sad, I always say, can you imagine the big wigs at the brewery? They're all sat down going, right, how can we tap into these ladies, right? How can we get the dosh out of their designer handbags? And they came up with all these wonderful fruity flavored drinks, specifically marketed at us ladies. So the pink prosecco and the flavored gins, some of the advertising, it's made out that it's so glamorous. They were advertised along in magazines alongside handbags, makeup, and high-heeled shoes, in an attempt to associate the brands closely with the lifestyle of a young, independent, fun-loving female. So they knew exactly what they were doing. Right. And then the other thing, social media ensured that the cash cow kept producing for these marketing companies, because our news feeds are filled with check-ins in different bars and restaurants, pretty cocktails, pictures of huge, great big glasses of Chardonnay, with women declaring, "I deserve this, I deserve it." And I think we're own worst enemy, because we encourage each other. And people are suffering. People are sitting at home taking antidepressants and washing them down with Pinot Grigio, because they think that they have to drink because they're stressed. It, and it's just, I find it really, really, really frustrating. um, and then also that some of the bottles and some of the way that it's packaged, it's made to look, beautiful bottles that look good enough to line perfume counters, and the little mini bottles of prosecco, and the super handy tins of G&T, and it's just so easy. You can pick it up from, like our shop. I went into the chemist shop, I think it was. Is it Savers? And they had wine in the chemist shop. Like, ah, I mean, how are you supposed to avoid this? It's really difficult. But even the fact that it's there just makes it seem so accessible and seem so normal. We went to Lapland actually with the money that I'd saved from not drinking. We took the kids, both of us had stopped. Me and my husband were saved up loads of money, and we decided to go to Lapland last Christmas. In there, you have to drive out of town to kind of like a industrial estate to pick up any alcohol that would be over 4%. So imagine that if you're in Asda or the local shop, yes, you can buy lager or ciders, but if you want anything stronger, you have to get in your car and drive to an industrial estate, and it just puts a little bit more of a gap in between. Um, so there's other countries who've come up with different things like this, but not us. Um, so I think why we're in this position is because of all of them reasons, and it's just if it's causing a problem in your life and you want to address it or you want to start looking at it, then please take a step closer to me. I've got my free group on Facebook. I'll put a link in the bottom, Rachel won't mind. And then if you want to join the group, it's totally free. I show up on there quite often, but I'm also running a free challenge. And now the challenge isn't about not drinking. The challenge is just about turning up and listening to what I've got to say, and that's next weekend. So I'll be turning up on another group on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'll be taking you through some of the really juicy content of what's in my program, and gives you a chance to try before you commit. And after that, I'm going to be offering a monthly membership, so you'd have access to the Sober Goals um, program, which is the activities and all the mindset stuff. It's a lot of life coaching in there. And I also bring in case studies from case studies to talk about the different stages as you go through this. So it's really good. I love it. I've worked really hard on it. But you get the chance to see this weekend a little bit more of a taste of what it is that I deliver, who I am, what I'm all about. And I would love to offer you that option to come along and find out more. I'll just see if there's anything else on here that I've missed. Yeah. Yeah, so what I don't want is any woman stuck in shame. That is my mission, is I don't want any lady stuck in shame and feeling like her drinking is not quite bad enough. She doesn't want to go to her GP. She doesn't want to talk to her friends about it, because then that would feel like she's judging them, because maybe they're drinking just as much. Um, Maybe you wonder what your life would look like without alcohol. If you're drinking a lot, it or even if you're drinking often, sometimes you can look and think, well, I don't understand what my life would look like without this. So those questions are all normal, absolutely normal. I mean, I can share my journey. You can see a lot of my story on my own Facebook page, but you can see that slowly your life will change. My life is so different to what it was when I was drinking, and I couldn't even visualize the life I've got now. I couldn't have imagined, because I didn't know that it existed. I thought I was having fun. Um, I wasn't. When I look back, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all. I feel so much better now. I mean, today, Monday morning, I've been up since 5 o'clock. I've been for a walk with the dog on the beach. I feel so excited and passionate about my new business. I can't even compare. It's like it being a completely different person now than what it was when I was drinking on a Monday morning. I would be sitting at work like this. I'd be sitting with my head in my hands. I'd be feeling really bad. I'd feel like I'd wasted the whole weekend. I'd feel guilty that my kids were at school. I just oh, like even when I think about it, I don't want to go back to that. I don't know why I would go back to that. But it's taken such a long time. It's a lifetime worth of brainwashing that we're actually undoing here. Keep thinking about that path to the beach, right? You can always go that way on the beach, but you might need to go down this other path first a few times till it starts feeling, like easier, and it's much easier, and it does happen. I promise you that. So that's enough for me. It was loads longer than I anticipated. I thought I'd be on for about 20 minutes. It's been a bit too long. Sorry, Rachel. I hope that people take the time to catch up on replay. I hope I haven't made it too long. But that's it from me. And take care. And what I'll do is I'll put those links, a link to my group and a link to my free weekend challenge for this weekend. And I hope that you come forward and that I see you there. Okay, bye for now.